Hey everybody, Boone White with the 323 Concept Furniture Restoration here. Today we're going to be looking at this power recliner unit and we're going to be seeing how it operates, and mainly we're going to be looking at how to diagnose it if it just stops working out of the blue. So stay tuned, and without further ado, let's jump into it. Alright everybody, so you may or may not recognize this mechanism, but this is inside your power recliner, your power sofa, your power love seat. This is what makes the footrest go up and your chair lean back and everything power-wise. So today we're looking at one of the most simple and basic setups that is in most modern furniture today. And I just want to sort of show y'all what's inside of it, how it operates. That way, if it stops working, you can tackle this project yourself. So this is the main mechanism, obviously. This is what reclines forward and backwards. Just sort of show you. If you notice, I'm pushing the button, it's going forward, goes back, right? So here's the main power parts to your recliner. Let's start from the wall. When you plug it into the wall, this is your power cord, and it, in one way or another, plugs into a power transformer box, right? This ends up running power to your entire unit usually. There might be different variations of this, but in 90% of the units I see, this is what it plugs into, right? So from here, it runs straight into the motor of the unit, and then out of the motor is your switch. And this is one of the most common switches that I see in most units as well. And I'll have these basic parts in the description of our video where you can find them. You obviously just want to double check and make sure these are what your unit has before trying to diagnose it and replace it. But when I start to diagnose a unit, number one is I always make sure it's plugged in, right? I check all connections, make sure all connections are secure. I make sure it's plugged into the wall. I make sure none of the wiring is damaged. A lot of the times I've seen the wiring get caught in the mechanism one way or the other, and it splices and cuts the wires in half. And you want to check all that first, and then if all that looks good, you start here. You want to look at your power transformer box. On the top left of your power transformer box, you are going to see a green indicator light. That means if it's green, that means you've got power going to the box. If you unplug it, and sometimes it takes just a few seconds, that'll dim out, and I'll show you what it looks like if it maybe doesn't have power going to it. In which case, that would mean you've got a bad power box, or possibly the cord running to the box could be defective. That's pretty rare. The cord itself, unless it's just damaged, would not go bad, but I have seen it. It's just extremely rare. But anyways, if that stopped working, this indicator light would go out. So I always start there, make sure we've got power going to the unit here. If that's green, I proceed by checking the power switch. I always carry one of these handy with me. Even if it's not the same switch that the unit has, I can use these to diagnose it. I think they're around $10 to $15, so I always keep one of these handy with me on all job sites, and I'll unplug whatever switch is in there, and I'll plug my brand new switch into the power unit. And if it starts working, then great. You've discovered that it's the switch that had gone bad, and then you proceed by replacing your switch. To get this off the side of your sofa, if you twist and turn this, there's going to be about 4 screws that hold this in place. Once you back those out, you just sort of trace this wire through your sofa. It'll be held in place by a couple plastic wire clamps. You just unscrew those and run it. When you do run it, you just want to make sure that none of the wiring's in the way of your mechanism. If you run it the way they ran it originally, you should be good, but just be careful and pay attention. So if you've tried your switch and that still doesn't resolve the issue, then unfortunately you've probably got a bad motor. The motors, they're a little more difficult to come by, and you can find them on Amazon, especially this motor, but the bad news is that not all motors are the same. There's a lot of different variations, and what I recommend doing is you can obviously check Amazon, see if this is your motor. If it is, great. You can have it in a few days and resolve the issue, but more than likely you're probably going to have to call the vendor. Wherever you bought your sofa from, your recliner, you call the store, call Rooms To Go, call Ashley's, one of these big manufacturers, where you bought it, and they can trace your order by your telephone number or your order number if you still have all that handy. And even if it's out of warranty, a lot of the times they have the option to order these parts for you. You obviously will have to pay for it if it's out of warranty, but it is doable, and that's typically the route I go if I can't find the part online, is I go through the manufacturer and we order it through them. It unfortunately can take a little while, but you can also, you can still get a resolution at least. Now, if you have, let me throw one other thing in here. That's how to diagnose it. Lastly, if it gets stuck in the upright position and you can't resolve it that day, what you want to do is you want to take the bolts that connect your motor to the frame off of here, and that will release the motor. Let me show you real quick. So the bolts in this scenario are 7/16 inch, so you probably won't be able to fit a drill in there. So you'll just have to get a socket attached to your ratchet, and you'll just have to do it by hand. But I just want to show you this. When you release these, just very carefully watch out. Sometimes these things can collapse real fast and you don't want to get your hands caught in the mechanism. So be very careful about this. And when you release these, you want to make sure that you might put something soft under them so they don't damage your flooring. But after you do that, your mechanism will manually, you can manually operate that and push it back in. And that's better than having it sitting out there for weeks at a time. All right, everybody, that wraps up our video for today. This is a very basic setup. I realize that not all setups are gonna be like this, but this will give you a starting point on learning how to diagnose your recliner. One thing I did leave out is you can always check if the power's not coming to your power transformer box. Check the outlet on the wall, make sure that it's functioning as well. If you have a wire tester, you can test the outlet, make sure it's still in good shape as well. One thing I would add is always make sure that these power mechanisms are surge protected, because a lot of the times, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a storm come through somebody's town and just wipe out all their power functions because it wasn't surge protected. So on valuable items like this, you know, just like you would your TV or your computer, you want to surge protect it, and that'll sort of prevent a lot of those issues from happening. So if y'all have any questions, comments, any other different scenarios that you're coming across where it's not working, leave me a comment. I'd love to help you out, see if we can't talk you through it. But other than that, thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks.